Welcome to another video. Today was tax day, and to my surprise, it was pretty eventful. So I will start by talking about NV Professional Landscaping. And I know that I haven't really talked about it on the channel, but before NV Accounting, I used to run a landscaping business. So in this venture, I had a few mishaps. I was clearing out a property, and we cut down this massive bush, and the bush fell onto the neighbor's property, and it crushed a apple tree, or it was like some little fruit tree, and it was really frail, and it basically got crushed. And so we jumped over the fence to try and clean up the bush that fell onto their property, put it back on our side, and then make the tree look decent before we left. However, we got caught, and the homeowners came out. They were really pissed off. I got chewed out for it, and it was fun. The clients that we were serving came over to the other side. They were friends with the neighbors. They talked it over with them. They kind of calmed down, and fortunately, everything got rolled over, and we were okay. Now, I thought those days were behind me. I thought the days of screwing things up, having neighbors shout at me, having someone be upset with me was over. Was I wrong. So today, here's the number one issue. I took this client on, and I did not do my introductory call, which I always do with clients. I always talk to them over the phone, ask them about their situation, ask them why they need their taxes done by a professional, so on and so forth. This time, I didn't do that. I don't even remember why I didn't do that. I think because I was busy at the time, but in hindsight, I had a long time till the tax deadline, so I should have done it. So that was my fault, number one. Number two, I didn't fully understand the client's situation. And I still took them on. And unfortunately, out of all the clients that I don't talk to, these are the ones that are actually complicated. Or this is the client that's actually complicated. So, hold on, I'm trying to find my footing here. I'm at the beach. So, she sends me over all of her files. And perfect. She sends me over all the files, and I look at them, and I realize some red flags off the top, but I was not smart enough to clarify all those red flags. I just decided, well, if I ask questions, it's going to sound like I don't know what I'm doing, which I really don't. But I don't want to show that I don't know what I'm doing, because I just want to show off that I want to show that I am the all-star accountant, etc., etc. Okay, so I don't ask any questions. There are a few documents that I cannot see. This client was using not Excel, but dot numbers. And when she put the files into the Google Drive and shared the folder with me, I could not access any of those documents. So I kind of just assumed that, well, she doesn't really know what she's doing, and the documents that were there, I don't really need. So I continue on with the tax return the way I would normally do it. Now, her prior tax return had about 4 Schedule C's. And the Schedule C is essentially the business P&L for small businesses that are not big enough to be incorporations that would have a K1 or an 1120, I should say. I don't even think K1 is the right thing. I've never done a K1. Disclaimer. So, anyways, it's not big enough to have an 1120. So, and I'm used to those. So, but 4 of them is a red flag. She also had a rental property, and the home address that was listed on the return was different from the rental property. So I'm like, great, she doesn't live at the rental property. However, this client tells me that they got divorced. So the rental was now a place that she was living at. And that was fishy to me. And also, all of her income was super fishy because she had like these 1099 miscellaneous items that were super weird. She also had Medicaid reimbursements. And on the W-2, those are not in box 1. They are in like box 12 or box 14 maybe, and they have a code in box 12 that's like II. So, and that's literally the last code. If you go into Intuit Pro Connect and you're looking through all the codes for box 12, II is literally the bottom code. So in my mind, I'm thinking that means that is the most random, not the most random, the most rare thing to input for the W-2s. So there's that. And there's the ocean. And now, because I'm lazy, I have this tax return not finished until the very end because I have never had a scramble at the very end before. Everyone, when I send them the file to sign, maybe they ask 1 or 2 questions to clarify some numbers. I had one client do that. But that's it. And then they sign, they're happy as clams. This one, I did all the expenses for the Schedule Cs, and I used the expenses from the last year's tax return, and I basically just kind of copied them over. Which is something that I thought everyone was okay with. Turns out that's not the case. Also, I'm very nervous because the tide is like getting really close to my feet. So I hope I don't start getting wet right now. But anyways, so I keep going on about my day. And eventually I get a crazy call. You know what? This leads nowhere. I'm going back. Yeah. This tide is like way too crazy. And the beach leads nowhere. So I need to get out of here. Anyways, so oh my gosh, that looks so much better. Okay, cool. This was the shot that I wanted the whole time. So it's down to the deadline. I thought that I could send over the return and she'd be happy with it. Turns out she's not. She already prepped. She already had a number in mind for what she might owe in taxes. And that's fine. However, typically, when the number is way lower than you expect, most clients are greedy and they just say, great, I'm just going to keep this money and spend it. Guess what? We're going to Cabo. But she, no. She said, okay, well, how did you get to these figures? I said, I used the same figures from last year and adjusted them, increased them a little bit to account for inflation. And then I proceeded to hear a mouthful about how she paid someone to help prepare all the documents and spent hours and hours and hours preparing all those documents, and I did not use them. Now, if I did use them, she would have owed a lot more. So, me trying to be helpful, I reverted from that. But She was like, I don't want to get audited. I don't want to go to jail. Da 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 da. You're not going to go to jail. I've never had anyone be audited before. The way I did the taxes is legit. And the IRS is not going after a bunch of teachers for skating taxes, which we're not doing in the first place. So I tell her, well, hey, I can't even see all the expenses you put on the folder you gave me. And then we get on the phone, go over every single document, and she texts me all of the documents in their correct form. And so I change all the expenses on the tax return 1 hour before 6 p.m. so that she'd have some time to pay the taxes. Also, I don't even think 6 p.m. is a deadline. But, I don't know. So, I changed everything and sent everything to her. And afterwards, she seemed semi-happy. I don't know. And yeah, it was a mess. I don't know if I did a good job telling the story here, but hopefully in the future I'll be able to tell it in a much better way. But yeah, fix the tax return. She ended up owing $20,000 to the IRS, and I just had it get withdrawn from her checking account. When in the beginning it was only going to be $3,000. So I kind of felt bad about that. She also owed like $2,400 to the state. And then in the beginning she was gonna get a refund for $200, a little over that. So yeah, it was a lot of back and forth. It was a lot of unnecessary emotion involved in the taxes. I got to hear about her evil ex-husband, and yeah, so a few takeaways here. When you're in business, I don't think you'll ever, unless you're like super experienced, I don't think you're ever going to escape getting chewed out by a client, unless you're just like the best at what you do. When you're starting out, things are gonna go wrong, and I think we all just have to accept that. Number 2, you need to do your due diligence on the client. You need to understand what the heck you're getting yourself into, whether it's landscaping, whether it is taxes, whatever the case. You need to understand what is happening. And if you don't, or if what's happening is complicated and you don't understand it, you are going to be in for a rude awakening like I was. So that was originally going to be a $750 return. I told the lady I'm just going to comp it. I'm not even going to charge her because of how much of a headache it was. So I don't know, maybe that was an L on my part, I don't know. But yeah, I'm glad I have the channel. I'm glad I was able to share the story. I want to share the story with my mentor. Hopefully he'll get a kick out of it. And yeah. But I guess it's good, because if you're not failing, you're not winning. So yeah. Always do your due diligence, and I will see you in the next video. Peace out.